So you may find this to be an ongoing question or even a concern, and trying to figure out exactly where you are within this space. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Do you actually need to learn how to code as a leader? Do you need to really be able to understand how to code behind the scenes in order to be a truly effective leader? And some of the things that may be circulating and what I'm hearing about in some spaces is that your board is asking about AI. Your team is anxious, your competitors are moving, or maybe you're running this solo and wondering exactly where do I stand with this, right? And how do you stay competitive without becoming a full-time technologist? So here's what I'm telling you. You're not behind. You're just speaking the wrong language. I've spent 20 years transforming organizations through technology, working with enterprises, and also founding my own company. And I'm about to show you the 8 competencies, the ones that you already have, that will separate leaders who actually create value from the ones just buying tools and just hoping that it works or that it sticks or something changes within their business, their organization. So this isn't about becoming a technologist. This is about staying relevant, helping your team confidently, scaling your impact without scaling your workload, and then making moves that actually move your business forward. So the first skill is the prompt engineering and conversational intelligence. This is your new communication skill. In healthcare, we spent years refining how we communicated with different stakeholder groups, doctors, patients, administrative staff, insurance companies. Same concept here. It's just a different audience, same principle. So let's talk about what this is. This is learning to ask AI systems the right questions in the right way. It's not a magic prompt, it's a clarity of intent. And leaders specifically need this because you wouldn't want to delegate all of your thinking to AI. You need to know what questions to ask, how to frame problems, and how to iterate. So when the first answer isn't quite right, this is literally your executive communication skill translated into a digital interface. So for founders and solo operators, this is how you get a second brain running 24/7. You're thinking out loud with intelligence augmentation. You ask better questions, you get better answers. Then you iterate faster. You scale your thinking without scaling your team. And here's the platform reality. Platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they all work similarly, right? Your ability to extract value truly depends on how precisely you frame what you need. Just like in a board meeting, the quality of your answers depends on the quality of your questions. You're not writing poetry prompts. You're using AI to sense, check strategy, get second opinions on decisions, frameworks, stress test arguments before you present them. So as a founder, you're stress testing your pitch. As a solo operator, you're validating your business decisions. You're thinking out loud with intelligence augmentation. Your second skill is data literacy and analytics interpretation. So you've always needed to understand P&Ls, dashboards, performance metrics. Data literacy, it isn't new. What's new is the volume, the speed, and the way that AI can surface patterns that you've never could find manually, right? So what this is understanding what your data means. Where does it come from? What is it telling you? And critically, what is it not telling you? So leaders specifically need this because AI platforms, they generate insights at speed. If you can't read data, you can't evaluate whether those insights are real or noise. And in this environment, that's very dangerous. You'll make a decision based on patterns that sound true but aren't. So for founders and solo operators, you don't have a data team. You need to know what's actually working in your business. AI can show you patterns in customer behavior, revenue trends, and also engagement metrics, but only if you know what to ask for and whether the answers make sense. You could compute information that looks like it's amazing. It came back in record speed, but how does that actually translate to your business? And it doesn't make sense to use the information. And finally, is it accurate? So here's a platform reality for this one. You don't need to run the analytics yourself, but you do need to understand. So platforms like Tableau, Power BI, specialized industry analyst platforms. So enough to ask smart questions about the data that someone's showing you. And the real application, it looks like this. A sales dashboard shows you 15% uptick in conversions after implementing an AI chatbot. But before you celebrate, you need to understand. So sample size it. You know the difference between correlation and causation. You ask about seasonality and market conditions. That's data literacy at work. So that's executive judgment. Ask a solo operator. It's the difference between doubling down on something that's working and then chasing a false signal. So here's your third skill. It's AI governance and ethical framework building. This is your risk management expertise, meeting compliance requirements in regulated industries. So we've always had to ask, what could possibly go wrong? How do we control for it? How do we document our decisions? So what this means is understanding how to implement AI responsibly within your organization. Not just is this legal, but does this align with our values? What are the future models? How do we stay accountable? So leaders specifically need this because this is where adoption becomes differentiation. Any company can slap AI into the process. Leaders build in frameworks and ask, can we keep this ethical? That is the difference between whether you would use it or not. Is it audible? Aligned with the company values. So your board and your customers will demand this, and you should too. And for founders and solo operators, you build trust by being transparent about how you use AI. Your customers care, your reputation depends on it. A clear governance framework, even a very simple one, shows you're thinking about this seriously. It's not just risk management, it's a brand protection. And here's the platform reality. You're not buying one tool, you're building a framework, documentation standards, audit trails, approval workflows. So tools like internal AI governance frameworks, compliance management systems, bias detection tools depending on your industry. And here's the real application here. You implement AI in hiring. So before you go live, you've asked what biases might we baked in? Who reviews exceptions? What's our fallback? If something goes wrong, how do we monitor for drift? That's governance. That's the difference between a pilot and sustainable practice. And for solo operators, it's the difference between a sustainable service and one that burns you or creates a liability. So skill four, it's a workflow optimization and intelligent automation. So you've been doing process improvement forever. So just like Lean or Six Sigma or re-engineering workflows, this is the same muscle applied to knowledge work instead of just operational work. So think about it as applying your project management skills. And what this means is identifying where AI can handle routine cognitive tasks so your team focuses on judgment, creativity, and relationships. And this is specifically important for leaders because the first leader to automate administrative work keeps their team fresh and focused, but in an alignment way, in a way that makes sense for business. And the leader who automates thinking work, it frees up the team to do strategic work, right? The more important deep level work. And this directly impacts retention, quality of work, and competitive advantage. So for founders and solo operators, this is how you scale without hiring. You identify the repetitive cognitive work that's draining your time, draining your status reports, Think about client summaries. So first pass drafts, email management, and then you automate it. You get your hours back and you focus on only the work that you are skilled to do. And so here's the platform reality. Zapier, Make, N8N, AI-powered project management platforms. They're going to be your strong contenders. They're going to help you throughout this process. So you're not building these integrations yourself, but you do need to recognize opportunities and brief your team on what is truly possible. So here's what the real application looks like here. Your team spends about 30% of their time on status reports, meeting notes, and email summaries. Instead of hiring another person, you implement AI workflow automation. Your team gets the same hours, but does different work. Quality goes up, turnover goes down, and that's the leadership application. And as a solo operator, you spend 20 hours a week on administrative work. You automate it. You reclaim 20 hours for client work, strategy, or even breathing. And that's not a small thing. So let's move on to skill 5, content strategy and multimodal content creation. So you've always needed a brand voice, a strategic message, a way to reach your audience. What's changed is the speed and the formats. You now need to think in text, in images, in video, in audio, and often simultaneously. So what this means is using AI to scale content creation without losing your strategic voice or authenticity. And the reason that leaders really need this is because visibility is no longer optional, but you can't create professionally in 8 formats while running a company. So AI augmented content, it creates, allows you to maintain a presence and consistency without even creating a separate team. And it keeps you sharp. You still write the headlines, you still make the judgment calls here. So you're still heavily involved in this entire process. And for founders and solo operators, you're competing for visibility against teams with budgets. AI augmented content is how you level the playing field. You create it once, AI helps you to repurpose across channels, and you still stay visible, right? You still stay relevant. You don't burn out trying to be everywhere at every time. So, everywhere all at once. This is where your AI platforms are going to really help you out. The platform reality is that ChatGPT for script can outline and copy, Runway, Opus Clip, or similar for video editing, Midjourney or equivalent for visual assets, or Gemini. And then Adobe's generative tools if you need professional production. But none of these replace your strategic thinking, right? All of them accelerate execution. So here's the real application here. You record one 30-minute thought leadership conversation. AI extracts short clips. AI creates social cards. AI generates newsletter summaries. You review and approve. So what used to take maybe 20 hours takes you 4. You still stay visible, you still stay relevant, and your ideas get distributed. So as a solo operator, you're not hiring a content team, but you are using AI to think like one. So skill 6, decision intelligence and strategic scenario planning. So this is your executive judgment supercharged. You've always had to think about scenarios, model outcomes, pressure test decisions. So AI gives you more than just a faster sparring partner. And what this means is that using AI to run scenarios quickly, pressure test assumptions, and also explore second and third order effects before committing to your resources. And the reason why this is so important is that the pace of change is relentless. You need to think faster without thinking worse. AI helps you to avoid decision paralysis and make more confident choices about how you show up, your perspectives, and how you also might have missed things in the past. So if you're seeing these patterns and you're understanding better how to apply them to your specific business, whether you're enterprise or a solo practice, this is going to be really critical for you. And for founders and solo operators, every decision that you make has outsized impact. you're betting your business on your choices. You use AI as your thinking partner, model scenarios, stress test your assumptions, and explore counter arguments before you commit your resources. So, the platform reality here is specialized strategic planning tools, or honestly, a really strong conversation with ChatGPT, with Claude, and also with your team or a trusted partner. And then you want to prompt it with your situation, your constraints, your values. Ask it to argue against your position and push back. So, this method is how it meets AI. The real application that you're considering a market entry. So before you even invest, you use AI to model it. What could derail this? What am I assuming that might be wrong? And that would be your biggest competitor. This is what your competitors would also do. So you're competing against yourself in a sense that from the onset of the research phase, you're making sure that you're looking at different angles to figure out how could this potentially go wrong. And what does the data tell us about similar moves? So you get perspective in hours and not weeks. You decide more with confidence. So as a founder or a solo operator, you just can't afford to guess. You use intelligence augmentation to de-risk really big decisions. And skill 7, talent development and upskilling architecture. So here's the other thing. You have to remember that you've always developed people. As a leader, this is not new to you, but now you need to develop people in an environment where their skills are shifting constantly. So rather than having maybe the top 4 traditional skills that most businesses used to be interested in, we're now incorporating skill sets that also include AI. And fortunately, you have a teaching tool that's available to you 24/7. What this means is building and learning programs that help your team to understand and leverage AI in their specific work, not generic AI training. And leaders really need this because teams with higher AI literacy are more productive, they're more confident, and less resistant to change. Leaders who invest in this pull ahead. Leaders who don't end up with burnout and turnover. And for founders and solo operators, your team is your competitive advantage. So if you have a team, invest in AI fluency. If you're solo, invest in your own continuous learning. Either way, this is a non-negotiable for really staying relevant in this fast-paced environment. So the platform reality for you is that internal learning platforms, AI-powered upskilling tools, platforms designed for specific industry applications. ChatGPT for creating personalized learning paths, or Claude or Gemini, you can use those as well. So the real application here is that your team is anxious about AI replacing their jobs. And instead of generic training, you build, here's what's actually impacting you and AI and how this changes your role. How do you need to think differently with having access to AI? And here are the new skills that you need. So those are the things that you want to consider. So here's how we're going to learn this together. You want to make sure that you're reassuring your team and also making sure that they understand to use AI to create personalized learning paths for each person based on their current skills and their role. So you remember those generic trainings. You have someone coming in and you say, okay, if you're in this department, this is how you're going to run things. This is how you run through the platform. This is what this means to you. But even within that department, you have specific specialty roles. So this allows for you to really cater a training platform using AI for those specialty roles. This helps you to have anxiety drop a little bit, right? Capability rises. Solo operators, you build your own learning path. You stay super sharp and you adapt faster than your competition. So the key here is remaining to be curious, remaining ahead of the curve, the learning curve. You want to continue to feed yourself new information, and that's how you stay ahead. So let's focus on this last skill. Skill 8, systems thinking and impact measurement. So, this is your strategic systems thinking, understanding how one change ripples across an organization, or how to measure what matters, how to avoid optimizing one metric at the expense of everything else. And what this means is building measurement frameworks that show whether AI implementation is actually creating value and not just activity. One of the things that you have to understand is that with AI, it always creates lots of activity. There's always one step connected to another step, and you'll even see in the prompts and questioning format, do you want to do this? Well, it might be helpful for someone else, but it may not be helpful for you to do this other thing if it's not going to feed back into what you actually need. And leaders specifically need to understand where you separate adoption from business value. Every company is implementing AI in some form or fashion, whether it's baked into some of the programs that they're using or they're being really intentional based on their industry. So most companies can't prove ROI, but you will, and that will be your competitive advantage. And for founders and solo operators, you need to know if AI is actually helping your business or just making you busier, giving you tasks that are not relevant to what you need for your specific industry or your department. So you need clear metrics. You need to know what's working and what's theater. That clarity that you have is how you scale with confidence. An advanced analytics platform, AI-powered business intelligence tool, internal data systems, that is going to be a strong point because these platforms matter less than the framework than you actually build. So you want the two to work together. So here's the real application. You implement AI in customer service, surface level metric, your response time went down to about 40%. But did customer satisfaction actually improve? So it's a large number, it seems impressive, but how did that impact customer service? Did you reduce churn? Did you increase lifetime value? Are your best agents staying or are they leaving? Are you making or losing money? So you measure these things, you adjust, you prove value, and that's the discipline. Solo operators, you implement AI in your workflow. Does it actually save you time? Does it improve quality? Does it move the needle on revenue? If not, you adjust. And that's the systems thinking at work. So here's what ties everything together. None of these skills are new to you. You've led through change, you've optimized processes, you've made strategic decisions with incomplete information. You've developed people, you have managed risk. So whether you're leading a team, running a company, or building something solo, you already have the foundation. So what's changed is the context, the speed. Your job as a leader isn't to become an AI expert. Your job is to become strategically fluent in this new environment, to know what questions to ask, what risks to manage, and how to move your organization forward. The leaders who will define the next phase aren't the ones with the deepest AI knowledge. They're the ones who combine traditional strategic thinking with fluency in what AI can't do. They're the ones who think like operators. They're the ones who connect the dots. So you have the foundation. Now you just have to translate it. If you're interested in working with me, you can visit me at apelli.com. And until the next time,